I think I just avoided a potentially abusive relationship and I'm a bit shook up by it. Earlier this month I 24F found out that a guy 27M from the gym I've been crushing on was on Bumble. I ended up matching with him and we began talking. He was super sweet but only wanted to talk about himself. But I really liked his charisma and confidence, so I waited till the first date to see how things went. The first date went over well. Really well. A week into dating he told me he loved me. I don't catch feelings ever really, so this was the first red flag. He was always super nice and treated me like a princess, which I am definitely not used to. I took his fast-moving love as him just wearing his heart on his sleeve. The next red flag is actually found out he had been kicked out of the gym we go to and his membership cancelled. I never really understood why, but I've seen the guys that go there. I feel like it's pretty hard to be removed completely. Red flag number 3 was, this man never left me the heck alone. We were always texting or he was following me around work. I even asked for space and it made him break down. Note: we both work on our own schedules. His is all remote and mine is half on site and half remote. He nicely asked for my location so he could know if I made it home okay. Blah blah blah. In retrospect, that was BS. On top of many other tiny red flags, these were the big ones. I decided that since we were only dating for 2 to 3 weeks I could just break up with him and it would be super chill. I was wrong. He cried, called me multiple times, tried to show up at my job, and gaslit the heck out of me. Now I realized I have dodged a bullet for sure. I'm not going to date for a while, but I'm not really sure where to go from here. Is there any precautions other than cutting him off socially that I should be taking? Any advice, stories would be appreciated. Too long did not read. Dated a guy who moved too fast, and when I broke up with him after 2 weeks he gaslit me and made me feel bad. Him telling you I love you a few days in is called love bombing and is the biggest indicator for you to run away. That and him talking about himself gives me narcissistic vibes. Glad you noped out of those so quickly. Lol, you sound exactly like my friend except the guy is bald. She's still talking to her dude, but guy gives me major red flags. They're not even dating and have talked for 2 weeks and he invited her to Thanksgiving. She said it was moving too fast and he got super angry with her. He said he already told his whole family, but she's 23 and wanting to date. Not be in a relationship. She's been so clear about it. Wouldn't be surprised if he does something like this to her. On average it takes 90 days to get to know someone's character during this probational period, and luckily you've found out early on. You want to keep it positive whilst explaining it's not what you're looking for. Obviously if he's unhinged then you really have to privatize your private life so he can't breach anything and cause any more harm. The best you can do is block him on social media, and if anything exacerbates from that and he's at your door, then you have to call the police. I'm glad you can screen out people from the offset. Some people aren't as lucky and get stuck in abusive relationships. I wish you all the best. You should be proud of yourself. You not only recognized the signs, you listened to them. That is actually easier said than done. A lot of people think it's easier to ignore the signs and end up paying for it later. Keep doing exactly what you're doing, you're on a good track. Just remember, it's okay to break up with anyone for any reason. One time I broke up with a vegetarian, totally fine, because he didn't eat any veggies, not okay. I'm an adventurous eater, and I just can't date someone who only ate pizza and mac and cheese, as delicious as they are. My suggestion: have a toast to yourself. You are a badass who doesn't suffer bullshit. Oh, and finally, I hope you're talking to your friends about this. They can back you up, make you feel better, and even learn something. Yikes, block him on everything and make sure everybody you live with knows what he looks like in case he comes skulking around your place. If he won't leave you alone, consider contacting the police. Oh shit, I think I am in the exact same position, except add to that trust issues, trying to force me into his family, kinda convinced me into getting together with him, and he said he loved me 2 weeks after he got over someone else. Also, I have felt this relationship is hella sus for the past month. You've definitely done the right thing by blocking him. Even with blocking him, I think you need to go through your privacy settings on social media and make sure everything is private and that it's difficult for people you don't know to get in contact in case he uses alt accounts or gets friends to message you on his behalf. I would make sure that your work knows who he is and that he's harassing you, especially any coworkers who are there the same time as you, so they can help you deal with him if he does try and show up again. Good for you. Taking care of yourself and making the right decisions. I was so happy to read a post with a happy ending. I had a similar but longer experience. 3 months into things being great, he suddenly started losing his shit on me. After the third time I was so scared I left something expensive at his place and never went back. We talked about a year later on the phone and it was obvious he thought it was all my fault. It's a small town and so glad he's antisocial and never comes to town. I haven't dated anyone since. You dodged a big ol' narcissist bullet. Good for you for recognizing the classic red flags. You have to go completely no contact with these people. They crave the attention and admiration, so I'm guessing he will quickly move on to someone who will give him that. Block. Delete. Don't answer if he tries to contact you. That's called a hoover, like the vacuum, because they will reach out, pour on the charm, and try to suck you back in. I'm proud of you for what it's worth. It sounds like you did your best in keeping your wits about you and setting boundaries as needed. I hope you don't let this deter you from following your instincts or from dating altogether. Maybe a lesson here is to try to ignore how nice someone is when their behavior is actually inappropriate. If they are genuinely nice, they will be willing to reassess their demands to find room for you to both be comfortable. If they are fake nice, they will freak out no matter how gently you try to back away, so better to just get out as clearly, quickly, and cleanly as possible. I had a woman do this to me until I became exhausted by it and tried to break things off. She then called me incessantly until I answered so she could scream and cry at me over the phone. You definitely dodged a bullet. It takes months to really develop feelings. I remember in my dating years I would screen for guys like this that are too intense by disagreeing with them early on in something, but make sure to be with him so I can see his reaction. In the first or second date I would for instance change the restaurant at the last minute, or refuse to go with him somewhere or withhold some information he asks for. If he gets upset and intense about it, that's a sign this guy is cuckoo and I jump ship immediately before he gets a chance to get obsessed. It's really scary out there. A guy once stalked me for months after just one date. Be safe and I hope this helps. A week into dating he told me he loved me. Yano. Total red flag. Just pick your reason. Maybe he's in love with what his idea of a woman is, and he's projecting that onto you. Or maybe he's doing that narcissistic BPD shit. Love bombing. Just hoping to overwhelm your logic and just hook your emotions. Or he's just super needy, codependent. Or all of the above. Is there any precautions other than cutting him off socially that I should be taking? Any advice, stories would be appreciated. Just cut him off. If he reaches out again, tell him you'll get a restraining order if that's what's necessary for him to respect your boundaries. Be careful. Keep an eye on your surroundings, and if he makes you feel uncomfortable, unsafe, get a no-contact order ASAP. Document everything, screenshots, etc. You can't be too careful. There's a reason you cut him off. Trust your instinct. You should consider a restraining order and changing your phone number. Also block him from all social media. I have dealt with a person like this before. It resulted in my life being threatened, having to carry protection and time spent in court where he finally went to prison. He has all the makings of a sociopath. Don't let people make you feel any type of way about breaking it off for him going too fast. If you've got funny vibes from him, that is your gut brain telling you something was off. You did good. Keep a lookout. I dealt with something very similar and he ended up trying to get me fired from my job, shot at my house with a BB gun to scare me, and told my mom I was sneaking out, even though I am an adult who was paying rent to live there. I made a mistake letting him pick me up and drop me off on our first date. You dodged a bullet. I'm so glad you noticed the red flags and got away from him. Narcissists tend to act charismatic and sweet at first. They'll spoil you and, like you said, treat you like a princess. Luckily, you saw through all of that baloney. I'd change up your social media passwords and add two-factor authentication before blocking him off. Honestly, I'd even let the gym and your work know, hey, this guy and I had a falling out. Let me know if he tries showing up to find me. Otherwise, I'm sure he'll get over himself and move on to the next. Let your work know about him so if a man matching the description shows up asking for you, they can turn him away. Lock your doors, change your Apple password and stuff so he can't get access to your account in the future. Honestly, change your password for almost everything. You never know what he got access to when you weren't in the room. You can never be too safe, just be smart, because the likelihood of a man like that being able to deal with rejection well is unlikely. My ex used to show up at my window at 4 a.m. and knock until I let him in. Luckily I was still in my parents' house at the time, and he was very similar to this guy. OMG, you just perfectly described my most recent relationship. Yes, red flags. Run loudly crying. Yikes, you really did dodge a bunch of dude with wearing capes of red flags. Treat yourself to a glorious meal for not having to deal with that. Block him everywhere, and while you're on site have trusted coworkers keep an eye out for him. While some posters on here said saying I love you very quickly in their relationship has worked for them, which is great and I'm happy for them, sometimes it's a meh thing when a person says very quickly in my eyes. It's a thing I believe you know once you know. If a dude tells you and you're not comfortable and you say so and he truly does, he'll back down and wait for you to feel that way and say it back and not throw a temper tantrum like 2-year who got their favorite toy taken away. Hey. When I was dating a new person I always tried to say no to something small or do something outside the norm a few times and watch their reactions. I'd insist on paying for food. I'd tell them I'd like to go home alone. I'd stop kissing them and say I really don't feel like being physical right now. I'd ask if we could switch restaurants a few hours before the date, etc. Just small stuff that might be a little annoying, but can clearly show you if the guy has an anger management issue or control issues. It's helped me a few times get out of bad situations and I highly recommend people do it as a safety thing. He sounds extremely controlling. The type that would likely guilt and manipulate you into staying so he could have complete control over you and potentially lead to abusive behaviors. Big props to you for getting out early and recognizing those red flags. You absolutely dodged a bullet. I don't think it would hurt for you to remove him off social medias, or even blocking him if you feel the need. Good on you for recognizing red flags. I would let your friends and especially your boss know in writing that you had a bad experience with this guy and to not give him any info. Call security if he shows up. Also be sure to have your social media on private for a little while. Him act like a baby and a child when you ended things. How the fuck was any of this potentially abusive signs? He seemed more clingy and too attached right away. From a security standpoint, you might want to leave him one option to reach out to you. Not because you want to talk to him. It may keep him from trying to kill you out of frustration. There are abusive, unbalanced, and controlling people out there with the idea that if they can't have you, no one can. A complete loss of contact can send them over the edge to the point of murder. The other benefit is documented evidence of harassment you can use for police and court actions if needed. Do the managers at your work know it was a bad breakup? Never heard of love bombing. Sounds painful. I care for people quickly but not love. Love is higher on the list. I had an ex just like this. Yikes. Don't worry, socially cutting them off is enough. People like that will have a new victim in a matter of weeks. You lost me at crushing on guy at the gym. However, this is a big role reversal. Normally the jocks just strut around, make their pass and move on if they're rejected. This guy sounds like he got his heart broken and on the rebound. Didn't give him an inch moving forward. Even if he comes back saying things have changed. Don't trust it. Love bombing narcissists FTW. Don't let this negatively affect your life. If you decide to date again, do it. Start slow and go as slow as you need. The right guy will understand. As for precautions, keep an eye on this guy. Cut him off from all your social media, and if you see him stalking you just once, report it. Better safe than sorry. I'm so proud of you. You saw the red flags and notepad out of that one. Keep up the good work. You dodged a huge bullet with this one. It's okay to not share where you live or work with someone you have dated less than 1 month. Heck, you don't have to share that until you are ready. Good on you for getting out. Some women are too afraid of being alone and they wind up in abusive relationships with crazy people by ignoring red flags early on. My first thought is, yay you. You recognized pretty quickly that this guy was bad news. The love bombing, the self-centeredness, the borderline stalking. I realize you are a bit shaken up, but by the same token, your spidey sense came right up. You saw straight away that this guy was Seuss. To me that means you can trust yourself and your instincts. Try not to be shaken, and instead be glad that you've learned you are probably more of a badass than you thought you were. Carry on op. Clearly a narcissist. He sounds like a raging narcissist who would have done a complete 180 on you and tried to control your every thought. Those location requests stuck out the most to me. And the fact he was moving a million miles a second. I've been in an abusive relationship before and this is definitely how it starts. Good job for paying attention to the signs. You probably just saved your life. First off, you can take some precautions, but at the end of the day his actions are his choice. So don't ever feel like something you did fired him up. You did an awesome job noticing the red flags and dipping out. Definitely block him from social media, just in case he tries to track your movement. Cut him off quickly and silently. If he does continue to attempt to contact you, keep records and a timeline of everything, and go to the police if you feel threatened. They can't do a lot, but the more proactive you are and keep records, if God forbid this ever escalates, you are ahead of things. Take care and keep listening to those instincts. Yeah, he sounds like he's unstable. You definitely dodged a bullet. I too am curious as to why he was banned from the gym. You got very lucky. Those were some very major red flags. I would block and run away as fast as you can. I don't really catch feelings ever. That's a red flag too. Potentially abusive? Gaslit. Dude, you just dated someone who was too needy for you and you broke up. Why are making it into something it's not? How are you this desperate for attention? Wow, you avoided a psycho. Good blog post, it's almost a humblebrag. You let him hit though, I bet.